Welcome to the Top Rated Seller webinars. We are so glad you're here with us this morning or afternoon, depending on where you live. We are happy to welcome you to another Top Rated Seller webinar production. And we want to thank the Top Rated Seller webinar team and appreciate them letting us use their service to help train education specialists for eBay. Top Rated Seller webinars are always free, always educational for the eBay seller. Please make sure you're on the Top Rated Seller webinar email list, because that way you'll know when new webinars come. You can find that at pagemage.com under their Education tab. You'll find Top Rated Seller webinars. And we appreciate all the sponsors that make Top Rated Seller webinars possible. And that includes our Uncle Griff as eBay Radio, where you've got the Griff. That also includes stamps.com, postage from your PC, Terapeak, because Terapeakers make more money, Cabbage, because we all need a little cabbage in our life, and of course PageMade with their brand new Social Beacon social media tool. So check out all the sponsors and make sure that you appreciate them for all of the education they provide at no cost to you on your eBay education career. Today, Top Rated Seller Webinars is blessed to have Joyce Banbury with us. Joyce has been around the eBay community a lot longer than most of us, and she has been heavily involved in the eBay community. Before we get started on her webinar, which is titled Build an eBay Education Specialist, we have a little poll we'd like to ask you to take just a minute to see. Are you currently an education specialist, or are you thinking about it? So that's what we're curious about, and ignore my typo there for Ann and Ann, but we were just wondering if people here were thinking about whether they wanted to be an education specialist or if they were already education specialists. That's kind of something we were curious about. You know me, I'm a cat, so I'm always curious. Looks like 60% of you have voted, 62%. We really appreciate you taking the time, and we will show you the results in just a second. I'm waiting for the numbers to stop changing, make sure everybody has a chance to vote. A lot of us, I taught eBay for a long time before I actually became an education specialist, but I made that choice because I wanted to make sure I was teaching the correct way and that I had the backing of eBay. So whether you are currently an education specialist or are considering it, we're glad you're here. All right, let me see if I can put up the results. It looks like 92% of our attendees are education specialists currently, and 8% are considering it. Thanks so much for answering our poll. Joyce, I think I'm handing it back to you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Have a great time, and we'll be around watching the questions for you.
All righty. And as far as questions go, we'll pause occasionally, and you can ask questions. But if you really have a lot of questions you want to ask, we'll give you plenty of time at the end. So make a note of them as we go along, and please do ask, because that's how we all learn from each other, don't you think? I've been with the Education Specialist Program since 2004, and I have been a certified business consultant since I think whenever it started, which was 2005 or early 2006. And I've really, really enjoyed the program, and I think that it's something that just about everybody who is in eBay and wants to share their experiences and share their the things that they've done on eBay that make them successful with other people. Lots of times you have people come up to you and ask you, well, can you teach me how to do this on eBay, or can you show me how to do that on eBay? And sometimes you just don't quite have all the tools. So we're hoping at this point to do two things. One, we have a new director of our program, which is Griff, and that's really wonderful because the eBay Education program has lagged a little bit, and we want to see it get started and grow, and we want to see ourselves become the ambassadors to the United States and even the world out there as we get out and we show people how to eBay the right way. And two, one other thing that we felt like that everybody was lacking a little bit in the Education Specialist program was training. So this is our effort to provide a little bit of training for those of you who are in the Education Specialist program and for those of you who are contemplating getting in or very new at it. The thing I want to bring up right off the bat is get excited. If you're going to teach people how to eBay the right way, you need to be excited about eBay, and you need to be excited about the Education Specialist program. You want to teach success. And when you teach success, you want to do it from the point of view of not only your own success, but the stories that you can tell people of other people's successes. And you want to teach innovation. Everybody's done everything the same way from the get-go, but that's not going to work in eBay anymore because, one, eBay is a catalyst. It's a catalyst to the future of e-commerce. And two, you need to find things, you need to change as eBay changes. So you need to be able to teach people and show people how to innovate and grow. Don't you like my lemonade stand? See, I added the mobile delivery. And if you notice up there, I added the little computer stand because that's what we need to do is take old concepts and make them new for the future. And in my opinion, and I think the opinion of a lot of people, eBay opens the door to that kind of success. Now I'm taking a breath. Is that okay? An eBay education specialist is a success key. And that means that eBay training plus your experience equals success. And being part of the education specialist programs means you have the tools in a very controlled way to teach eBay how to use best practices to succeed. But what do you want to really be excited about? eBay is the most effective market platform in the world to start, build, and brand a business. And I'm going to say that again, and I want you to get that in your head, and I want you to think about it, and think about it, and think about it as you set up classes and teach students how to eBay. eBay is the most effective market platform in the world to start, build, and brand a business. There is no other that can match it. There are other platforms out there that people can sell on, but as a starting point, eBay has it all wrapped up. When you go out into the world and you teach people, you want them to understand that the worldwide market is at their fingertips. All it takes is a computer, an internet connection, and a plan. And I think that's really, really important for people to understand because I'm in a rural area, and for years I have watched as main streets deteriorated and people left small towns for cities for better jobs. And so a few years ago, what got me really excited about eBay was the potential. The potential for anyone, anywhere, to be able to make as much money or even as little money as they choose to support their families or support their lifestyles. And that's really, really important that you understand that as an education specialist, is that you're opening a door to success. They may learn on eBay, they may build a niche on eBay, and they may market on eBay, and they may expand to other platforms like Amazon and Etsy. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But everybody needs a starting point, and that's what we provide as education specialists. An eBay education specialist teaches success through best practices on eBay. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute because I really, really want you to get that in your head that it is the best place to start and grow a business anywhere in the world. And this is just a little rundown of the first things that we're going to talk about. Planning for success as an education specialist. You sign up, you take the test, some of the materials and equipment you might need, and the first step is prepare for success. Learn how to understand how to get your classes organized and what kind of classes you want to have. Where are you going to teach? How much will it cost you? Well, we're not going to talk so much about the cost, but we're certainly going to talk about where you can do some teaching. What type of classes you want to teach. I think this is really, really important because I think it's important that as an education specialist you understand that there are different ways to teach your classes and that it's an option because you are an independent contractor with eBay. You can do anything you want, but you have to do it within the perimeters that the education specialist program has set up. and how to locate venues. And I'd really like to say that we won't go into this in depth, because in 2 weeks we will be having another webinar that will focus specifically on this, because it is so important for you as education specialists to understand how finding venues can benefit you and which ones are the best ones to look for. And if you look at the bottom of your screen here, you'll see that I've asked you to join us on the Facebook eBay Education Specialist Hangout group. That's on Facebook, and if you haven't joined us already, please do. And the reason isn't just because I'm there, but we all know that I'm there all the time, but because we have so many great education specialists on that Facebook group that are ready to answer questions for you and help you find your way as you start out or as you succeed in the education specialist program. So do join us over there, and that should be a live link for you. Okay, I'm going to take a little sip of water here because my mouth's getting dry, and I got to tell you something. It's a real pleasure to be here today because it's about 21 degrees outside, and we've got ice all over the sidewalks and the road. We've got a wind chill factor of about 10 below. So being in here and sharing this time with you guys is just about the best thing I can think of I'd be doing today. So thank you for being here, and I hope you get a lot out of this. When you first sign up, you sign up for the basics of selling on eBay. And you sign up on the PowerU site, which is http://poweru.net. And I'm not going to go in depth in this because once you get there, it will show you exactly how to sign up and the cost factors and everything else. I have to remind you, you're an independent contractor and you're not employed by eBay. So you're really on your own out there as far as finding your own venues and things like that. But you have the tools that will help you succeed from eBay and PowerU. Your title is eBay Education Specialist Trained by eBay. You are not certified when you first start on the eBay Education Specialist platform. One of the progressions that you make, the top of the heap, so to speak, in the Education Specialist program is the Certified Business Consultant. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. However, you are not certified and you do not use that in your Education Specialist title until you actually become certified. And everybody likes to take tests, and I have to tell you, it's not a hard test to take. In fact, I think they even let you take it twice, and it's an open book test. When I was in college a few years back, in 2002, I loved open book tests because I'm not the brainiest person in the world and my mind doesn't retain all information. So it is an open book test for you. And then with experience and eligibility, your expertise grows. And right now, there are 3 other programs that you can that you can add to your Education Specialist program. Beyond the Basics, eBay Stores, and then, of course, I call this the PhD of eBay, which is eBay Certified Business Consultant. And really, it's not quite a PhD in the sense of the academic world, but it's kind of a tough test. So it's a natural progression for anybody who wants to become a professional trainer in eBay to work their way through the different categories of training. This is just a chart that I pulled off of the PowerU site that shows the qualifications and benefits of the eBay, different eBay programs, eBay Basics, Build Your Business, eBay Stores, and Certified. Now, I will tell you, occasionally when we're out there in the world, we hear, well, it's not tough enough to get into the eBay Education Specialist program. And I don't disagree with that, but I have to tell you this, that very, very first program that you enter in is the basics. And I think just about anyone who has some experience on eBay can teach it, given the PowerPoint and the tools that we're given. So it's really wise to keep in mind that when you first start out as an education specialist, you are teaching the very basics. But what you are adding to that is your experience, and you are adding the tools that will give them best practices for really getting a good start on eBay. And that's very important. We have a new way to enter our workshops on the eBay, on the PowerU site. It's the Constant Contact Even Spot sign up for our courses. I'm not going to go into depth right now, but I will say this. There's a reason that you sign your classes in when you get a class, or when you're coaching. As an eBay business consultant, you may be doing a lot of coaching, and that's a little bit different sign up than the basics and beyond basics in stores. But you really do need to put them into the Even Spot program once you get a class set up. And the reason for this is because eBay tracks us. eBay is a statistic-driven company. In other words, they have to see a result in order to make a program work. By putting your classes into the Even Spot program, you are enabling them to track the classes, the students, how well they do, and so forth. And this is the way the program thrives. If we don't put classes in the system, then eBay can't track them, then the program suffers. And that's about where we're at with it right now. We want the education specialist program to thrive, and Griff is working behind the scenes to help us bring it up to par, and the education specialists need to work from the outside in order to show eBay that it is a viable program. So please do use the system to put your classes. Some of the materials you may need starting out. Well, you will receive the Education Specialist PowerPoint disc. You will work from a PowerPoint, and you need to go through it and look at it once you've taken the test, and you will receive your materials, which is a PowerPoint disc and some other materials, a laptop or desktop. But then probably if you don't have those to start with, you aren't going to be able to sign up anyway, so that's kind of a moot point. Projector, screen, digital camera, and printer. Particularly a projector, if you're really serious about it, might not be the very first thing you want to buy, but it is certainly one thing that you will look into getting within the first year probably. Screen, believe me, when I first started, I've used a lot of different things for a screen. I've used a sheet, I've used a piece of paper, I've used a wall, and everything else. But finding a nice small screen that you can fold up and put in your trunk is always a good thing if you're not working in a sponsored venue that has those supplies. Digital camera is very important because you really will want to demonstrate how pictures are taken during your presentation of the basics. Printer, not so much starting out, or not so much something you take with you, but you will probably want it as you develop your program at home. Some other things that you might want to think about for your first year out there or starting out will be a student folder. I buy very inexpensive ones, and I use clear labeling to put my labels on them that has my name, address, and so forth, education specialist logo, which we are allowed to use. Business card, another very important thing, and I have shown you where to find them and what they look like a little bit later in the program. So we're just going to go over these briefly. Inserts from the resource section of the PowerU collateral material. That's a big mouthful. But what you really need to do once you get signed up for the education specialist is to go look over the PowerU site and go into the resources section and look at the materials that are available to you. Some of them are a little outdated, but they will be bringing them up to par. but a lot of them are editable or will at least give you an idea of how to develop your own flyers and brochures and things like that. A website, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, and the education specialist student manuals, which are available through the eBay store and through downloads. You can find out all that information on the PowerU site. Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute. Does anyone have any questions, Kat? Because I need a drink. How's that?
Go for the drink. We have some really good questions, and they're putting little emoticons because they love you, Joyce. They said, "We love you, Joyce."
I want to be loved today.
Well, and we're all feeling a little guilty about complaining about our weather once you told us about yours, so we're going to be really sweet. The first question that I got for you is, do we have to pay all the renewal fees if we're in more than one program? So if we teach 3 programs, would that be 3 renewal fees each year?
You will pay 3 renewal fees. They're very low. I could go back to that slide, but you can look them up on the PowerU site until you become a certified business consultant, and then the renewal fee includes them all that you're eligible for.
Okay, that's a great answer. All right, the second question, perfect answer. The other question is the business consultant test an open book test like the others?
Yes, but it doesn't help. You have to have excuse me, a pretty good knowledge of the eBay site. So, but I think they allow you to take it twice too.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
So you can take it once.
And
you can take it once and get the feel for it, and then go back and take it the second time if you need to do a little research.
Okay, and it looked like the renewal fees were like $89. But I remember something last year, they made some kind of special deal where it was like $25 or something like that. Am I remembering that right?
For $89 is for the business consultant program only.
Okay, so renewal fee, we're looking at $25 there. 25
for basics is $25, for beyond is $10, for stores is $10, and certified business is $89, and that includes the other 3.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. That makes sense. One more question is, can an ES teach any topics outside of the stuff provided? Like, can we talk about HTML and shipping, that kind of stuff?
As long as it falls within the perimeter of the PowerPoint presentation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on also. But the PowerPoint, in my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion at this point, is a guideline. I do a lot of my training with the PowerPoint, but I go live on eBay and everything for things. So as long as it's relevant to the PowerPoint and it stays within the perimeter of the PowerPoint, you can. Now, can you teach other platforms like Amazon or Etsy or anything like that while you're teaching eBay under the education specialist program? No, you cannot do that.
Okay, I think we're ready to go on.
Did that answer?
Yes, it did. You got it good. I think we're ready to go on. Thanks, Joyce.
Okay. Prepare for success. Now we're talking now a little bit more about presenting your workshops. So the first thing I suggest you do when you get your PowerPoint is to print out the outline view of the PowerPoint and make notes on it. Now, most of the time when you do a class or a seminar, you will have to have a certain amount of timing. In other words, you will want to go through a certain part of the PowerPoint and then stop and maybe do a demonstration or go live on eBay, or you want to take a break. And the best way to do that is to print out the outline view and then mark it in places along the way where you can do that, where you can take breaks or do a demonstration. And we'll talk a little bit more about that too. Another thing is that eBay or PowerU and eBay do have a 1-hour presentation on the PowerU site. It's always a good idea to give 1 or 2 workshops free and do a shorter version to get through the material so you find so you can fine tune it later. There's several reasons for this. The main reason is you get familiar with working with people directly in front of them or with a group of people. Another reason is it helps you build expertise, because many organizations will give you the opportunity to give a free workshop. When we first started with eBay Education Specialists in 2004, they had a promotion where they had us do what they called Holiday Helper. It was a buying demonstration program, and they were free, and eBay put the materials out and everything for it at that time, because this was an intro to the Education Specialist program. When I went out to San Jose in 2004, September, and took that training and came back to Kansas, I set up 30 workshops in the next, well, till about the second week in December. And what I did was I gave a free presentation, and then I used that as sign-ups for my Basics of Selling presentation. You always want to make sure that when you do the free presentations that you do have a workshop coming up in the near future in that area, and you want to make sure you have business cards, maybe even a special rate for those people, or some way to guide them to your workshops from that. So the free presentations have a lot of good vibes for you when you're out in the community, because there's lots of places who'd like to just have a free 1-hour presentation about selling on eBay. Libraries, church groups, senior centers, social organizations, and it really helps you build expertise when people see how professional you are and how well trained you are to give these 1-hour presentations. Then it really builds your expertise in your community or your area that you might be wanting to build your education specialist program in. Never stop growing. Ask for audience input. If you want to do a little survey, do a little survey. Listen and implement changes that are necessary to make it a better learning experience for your students and your clients, because I have to tell you, you will learn more from them than they will for you, it seems like sometimes, because they really know how to put you on the spot, they know how to ask questions, and they really give you good feedback. Each time you get that kind of feedback, that allows you to add that to your presentation the next time and become more professional. Your job is to take the education specialist materials plus your experience, simplify it, smooth it out, and make it interesting for them. eBay provides the road and tool for success, and you as an education specialist take people down that road in a number of different ways. Don't you like my graphics here? I thought they were so cool. I worked almost as hard on those as I did on the whole program.
I like this one, but I like the lemonade stand even better. I like that graphic. That was awesome, but the lemonade stand was amazing.
Yeah, I like that too. If I'd had one of my grandkids, I'd have stuck them in there because they're that innovative, I'll tell you. What is your style of teaching, and what are your goals? I think this is kind of hard for a starting out education specialist, and even one that's been with it for a while, to make sure that they understand exactly what and how they want to teach. So you want to make a decision about this right off the bat. That doesn't mean you can't change. It's not set in stone, but it just gives you the guidelines to understand how and where you're going to do your teaching. Two things to keep in mind. Are you a teacher, or are you a coach, or both? And it does make a difference, because that's how you're going to market your education specialist career, is to the choices that you make about how you want to teach. And it also helps you become more professional, because you have a clear understanding of the path that you want to take. What type of classes do you want to teach? you want to do a seminar. You know, when I first started, the second year I started, I went to eBay University in New Orleans, and I had the real advantage of seeing Griff give the basics of selling at one of their eBay University programs. And I watched his timing, I watched the way he handled the crowd, and I watched the materials that he put out there and how he did it, and I thought, that's what I want to do. I just want to do a one-day seminar where I can connect with people and teach them the basics of eBay. And so that's one of the things that made my decision all those years ago, and for the most part, that's what I still do. That may not be the way you want to take it, but frankly, it takes the most professionalism to do that, but it is also the least stressful way to do it. You can do another type of seminar where instead of doing it in one day, you do it in 2 days or 3 days or more. You could have one 2-hour session once a week, or for 3 or 4 weeks if you wanted to. That's your decision to make, and that's your thinking. But you add to the cost if you're looking at venues, and you will add to the fact that once you have 10 students, by the end you may only have 2. So you really need to think through these things and to determine what kind of a teacher you want to be. Another one is a classroom. Let's say, for example, that you sign up to do a community college outreach program, and they want you to do it for a full semester. That means you are, and this particular classroom we're talking about now is without computers. You're still in a seminar type setting where you're teaching, but they do not have computers. You may assign lessons for them to do. You may have them bring something for you to list, or show how to list, or something like that. You would have to plan that schedule if that's the kind of a classroom experience that you want to have for your students. And then, of course, the last one I have here, which is probably the most complicated and the most time-consuming, is the computer lab. And I've not done this in years, and I probably would not personally do this, but I do know a lot of education specialists do, and they do it successfully. And that would be more in-depth training, probably over a period of time or a few days, maybe 1 day or 2 day computer lab, or maybe over a semester computer lab. Or maybe you would have I don't know, an in-depth 2 or 3 days in a row where you're doing nothing but computer labs all day. I don't know, because this is not my thing, but it is certainly an option for you. And if you want to work with community colleges or outreach programs for universities, it is one of the options that they might offer you. It's been my experience that when you work with those kind of venues, that you have the choice about how you want to conduct the classes. But certainly the computer lab is an option. It is also the most labor intensive, and it is also the most difficult to do. So you would probably need an assistant to help you, because in your classes you will have people who are just beginning, and you will have people who have quite a bit of knowledge about eBay. So you have to balance that out when they're working behind a computer. So I'm not recommending it, but I'm not recommending it either. And then there's the coach. One-on-one training, which would come with a sign-up, basics of selling, eBay education specialist, but probably it would be better served through a person with more experience when you get into beyond the basics, or stores, which is a discipline all in itself. But coaching is probably the ultimate thing that you can add to your repertoire of eBay education specialist experiences that will earn you the most money long term. And the reason for this is because you can select the people, or they can select you, in order to build a business once they've been through the basics and once they've been through beyond the basics and they need more training, or a business that needs maybe 4 or 5 people trained to do eBay, and once you go through the basics, then they need coaching in order to complete the training. So I would say that coaching is something that you would not do exclusively by itself, but you would add it to your repertoire as you become more professional. And when you coach, you help them build a niche of expertise, and then you help them market to that niche. Now, when we're talking about a niche can be either narrow, such as Bubble Fast, a company that I am extremely interested to watch because they've done such a good job of branding themselves and finding a niche that they can even market to across channels. So they're a good example of how you can market to a niche. But then niches can also be broad, such as antiques and collectibles, or vintage, or in my case, holiday market, where I really prefer to do Christmas and holiday type things. It can be very broad, but you still work within the niche, and this is how you help people understand that branding and niche marketing is very important. The coach enables the entrepreneurial spirit. You're taking people as an eBay coach to the next level after they've already attained what they need to know about basics and beyond in stores. You're, as a business consultant, you're taking them on as far as you can take them. And there are some education specialists who have done this very successfully. I have a very good friend who started out as an education specialist, and now they market themselves building stores and managing stores for people all over the world, eBay stores. So you have a potential here of unlimited professionalism and unlimited teaching when it comes to the education specialist program. How to locate venues. Now, in 2 weeks, on December the 6th at 1 p.m., we are going to have another webinar, which the sign-up is already in place at the end of this webinar, that is specifically about venues, and particularly about sponsored venues, because I think this is so important. I couldn't cover it in this webinar. When it comes to venues, and venue is a place where you hold your classes or you hold your meetings, you have sponsored venues, and that is any group, business, or organization that periodically holds classes, workshops, seminars for their clientele, and they hire an expert trainer and work with them to provide the classes. Private venues would be a place you would go to, such as a hotel meeting room or a library meeting room. You probably will have to pay for it. There's a lot of different places where you can find them. You would do your own advertising and promoting, and it is probably, some people do this very successfully, but as a beginner, as in the first stages of your education specialist career, this is probably the most expensive and the least desirable if you can locate sponsored venues who will help you promote your classes. And as I said, I will cover this in depth at the very next webinar in 2 weeks. And I'm going to take a break, Kat. Do you have any questions?
Oh, we do. And I've got them in a document. So let me see what we can do here. If we offer the 1-hour version that you talked about earlier, can we list these events on EventSpot, or can we link to them? Do these 1-hour freebie sessions count in eBay's metrics for the ES program?
They can. If you list them as a basics of selling and use the basics of selling as your guideline, and I don't see any reason why you can't, then it can be listed, yes. But the thing you have to remember here is that the people will have to sign up for it in advance. And if it's a free class, you will have to make sure that the venue or the sponsor of it understands that people have to be signed up for it. if you're going to use the PowerPoint off of the Resources Center, which is a selling PowerPoint, then no, you wouldn't be able to do that because it's not listed.
Okay, so if you're going to use the provided 1 hour training, then you couldn't list that on the event spot. But if you use the basics training, you can.
If you use the basics PowerPoint or any of the 3 PowerPoints for that matter, if you use the PowerPoint that you get as an education specialist for training, then it will go in, because the way it's set up is you only have those choices on EventSpot. Basics of selling, beyond the basic stores, and business consultant.
Okay, so when you set it up in EventSpot, set it up as a basics of selling class. Right, okay. Next question. Do you recommend having business cards for your ES business that is separate from your eBay business cards, your eBay store?
Definitely, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes.
Okay. Are there specialists that do the entire basics class free and then charge for coaching?
That's up to you. It's your choice. You're an independent contractor. You can do it however you choose. However, I don't see the advantages of doing it free, because it's been my experience in all these years of training people that even people who are a little experienced on eBay 50 or 100 feedback don't always understand the basics. And with all the changes over the years and teaching people how to use best practices on eBay, I think everybody needs to start with the basics. I really do.
Okay, great. Good question or comment from Michelle. Do they ever plan to make a phone call line for us to use to get help? The online support system is not working so well. Sometimes you really need help or a question answered.
Are you talking about from the education specialist point of view?
I believe that's where she's coming from. I mean, I think it's, wanting a phone number.
I've never used it. I always use the email support at poweru.net, and I usually get pretty good response in a short time. I think this is going to improve now that we have a new director. I'm going to be really frank with you right here. The program has lagged in the last year. It lost the person who was the catalyst for it in May a year ago, and it has lagged. But with Griff at the helm and Rena Snell and Tricia Crawford now going full speed, I think you're going to see a lot of this pick up. So we just have to be a little bit patient right now.
Okay, thank you. I think we're ready for the next section.
Okay. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about how to market your classes. And this, once again, we're kind of skimming the surface. And one of the things that I would like to make clear here is this is the first in a series of webinars that we are developing to train education specialists and help them build their businesses in the next year. So some of the things that we can't cover because of our time restraints here, we will be doing in more depth beginning in January. And I think, is our first one up in January? Is that the stores one? Do you remember, Kat?
I am not remembering, but I'll go check right now.
Okay. So we're going to cover some of the things that we can cover about how to market your classes. And a lot of this is geared at sponsored venues, not all of it, because I feel like that if you do it for them, then you're doing it for yourself too, as you prepare to give your own education specialist classes. And the first one we have up here is create a portfolio of your professional talents to introduce yourself. And I'm going to go on down here to the next one, because this is how I do it. Create a website that can be your referral point. Locate venues so locally, sign up for relevant events that you can attend or exhibit at, use the 1 hour selling presentation to give complimentary workshops. We've covered a little bit about that. Use online and offline media resources for press releases and secrets to your success. This is just our lineup of what we're going to be covering in this next segment. 3 things I want you to know right off the bat. You know, eBay's in constant flux. It's always changing. Where eBay was in 2004 when I started as an ES, and where eBay is this November in 2013 is so different, it's not even, you can't even compare them. So the one thing I want you to understand right off the bat is the PowerPoint is not the instructor. The student manual is not the instructor. You and your expertise are the instructor. Don't waste time making excuses for the materials. Get on with the learning experience. A professional eBay education specialist doesn't require a perfect PowerPoint or a perfect manual to give good instruction. It's up to you to stay current. It's up to you to give your students the very best of best practices that eBay offers and help them understand that they have to go forward from this point forward, not worrying about what happened yesterday, last year, or what isn't here in the manual or what isn't there on the PowerPoint. I really want you to get this clear in your thinking process, is that you're the instructor. You and your expertise are the ones that are going to help these people learn and become expert or become good at selling. And create a portfolio of your professional talents. One of the things that will help you along is to become an expert that you can build on and allows you to grow as an education specialist. Now we're looking at the professional side of being an ES. My expertise is rural economic development through eBay, because this is the way I see it out here, as an open door to help people sustain a lifestyle in a rural area, and to help people understand that they can build a business anywhere there is a computer and an internet connection. So it helps for you as you work your way through at least your first year as an education specialist, or when you come to a point where you feel like you're stalemated, is to build expertise in a field that sets you apart and makes you a little bit unique. This is another thing that I've used that I feel like is extremely important. Create a website that can be your referral agent. Keep it clean and exclusive to your eBay education specialist business. A professional website gives you credibility. And this goes back to number one, which is create a portfolio of your professional talents to introduce yourself. Your portfolio in part can be your website. And I'm going to take you to my website, I hope. I guess I'm not. But anyway, if you have an opportunity, maybe I can come back to it in a few minutes. Your education specialist website can be your reference point whenever you are ready to go out there and start setting up venues. If you have a nice, clean website, can I go out of here for a minute? Yeah. Let me take you to my website, just simply because I set it up exclusively as a education specialist website. Are you with me here?
Yep. We are right here.
Okay, can everybody see this now? The website?
Yep, I see it.
Okay. All right, this is the website that I set up when I first started, and there's a couple things I just really want to point out as we're doing this, and one of them is using the newspaper fold as your guideline for setting up your first page, which if you see a newspaper in a newspaper stand, all of the really top stories and everything is on the top of the fold. When you build your education specialist site, you want to make sure that every bit of your information, I need to get rid of this.
Uh-oh, finding updates.
No, I just need to get rid of this sidebar so I can see. I'm good. I want you to understand that all the pertinent information on your website needs to go above the newspaper fold or very close to the top of it. Gotcha? And my screen is, because I'm blind, so I don't see well. Okay, the next thing I want you to see, and I want you to get a good understanding about, is when you send out a link to your website to a sponsored venue or somebody, rather than creating an email or a paper portfolio, is you can list all of the topics and everything that you might want in your on your website so that they can cover it. If you're doing all of them, if you're doing stores and everything else, and what I used to set this up was the outline view of the PowerPoint. I went through it and I used it to set this up. But you can set it up as complex or as uncomplex as you want. The third thing is your About Me page can be your bio. You can put on your About Me page all the things that you want people to know or need people to know about you when you are setting up new workshops. So if I went to a small business development center and asked them to set up some workshops for me, and I'd say, well, can I just send you my web page? It has my bio and everything on it. They're 10 times more likely to be thrilled with that than they are if I've got a bunch of paper, because they can go look through it, look at it, and understand that this is who I am and this is what I'm doing. So when you get ready to set up your education specialist website, there's some things that you need to know. You cannot promote any other programs there except your education specialist programs or things that are relevant to your education specialist program on that site. Okay?
Fantastic. We got some good questions, Joyce, if you've got time while you're switching over.
Let's see. Let me get back to my PowerPoint. I don't know where I'm at. I think I lost me.
No, you're right there. I see the little P down there. Right, that's go to webinar. The next one over is PowerPoint to the left. There you go.
Okay, now I have to bring it up full screen, right?
Yep, just go up there at the top. It should go. There you go. Perfect. All right.
We can take a break here.
Okay, because I got some really good questions. Well, as long as we need is what we are. We usually go about an hour and then questions.
Yeah, okay.
Since we're taking questions in the middle, we can go longer. Okay, this person wrote into PowerU Assistance and didn't get an answer yet. We were wondering if you had some insight. She wanted to know if she could send email messages via constant contact to those that they key in without any additional cost. Do you know about that with the new website?
Say that again.
Can they send constant contact emails to the people that they key into the system without any additional cost?
Well, the way it's said, I don't think I understand exactly what she's asking, but this would be my reply, but she better wait for PowerU, is that the constant contact event spot application that we are using or system that we are using is free to us. eBay has set it up so it does not cost us anything. So if she's talking about within the education specialist program, I can't understand that it would cost her anything to send out anything. Now, whether they allow that or not, I don't know.
Okay. All right. Great.
She'll have to get a better answer from PowerU.
Okay, that makes sense. They're changing it, so it's kind of interesting. And this person wants to know about using Meetup. She uses Meetup for a lot of social things, and so she wanted to start a Meetup for her education specialist career, but somebody declined her. I don't know if it was Meetup that declined it or if it was eBay, but she thinks it might have been because of eBay being protective of their brand. Can we market ourselves as education specialists on other websites and places like Meetup? Meetup declined her, she said.
Oh, well, then I don't know. That would be Meetup's problem because I'm not familiar with it, but I would say that you can market yourself as an education specialist from the eBay side just anywhere you want to, as long as you follow their regulations and rules about use of the logo.
Okay, so we are able to market on our own websites and others and use the eBay Education Specialist logo as long as it's in their parameters, right? Okay. The other question was, can you mention the requirements to stay in the program? How many listings or how many classes, how many feedback? Can you
I
mention
would
that?
say the best thing to do is to go to the eBay Education Specialist, Power U Education Specialist site and click on that link that says what I think it is Learn More, and it brings up that chart that I just showed you, and
Okay.
it lists all that stuff and tells you what you need to know.
Okay, I do think that has recently changed with the new system, hasn't it?
No,
No? Okay.
nope. I asked very specifically if anything had changed, and they said the only thing that's changed is constant contact.
Okay, interesting.
Now,
Onward.
that, and I believe that to be true because that's what I was told.
Okay, that sounds good.
Are we done?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I think we're ready for the next part.
Okay. Now, since I'm back here, let's go over this just briefly again. Is if you want to market yourself as a professional education specialist, creating a website that is strictly an education specialist website within the perimeters of the PowerU and the eBay guidelines is probably going to be of more benefit to you than all of the portfolios and things that you can create in paper to send out, because it becomes a focal and a reference point for you and brand you as being a real professional when it comes to becoming an education specialist or furthering your education specialist career. So I really want to encourage you to go that route. I'm reading what I wrote. Can I take a beat? Oh, okay. You talked about a card, a business card. I think business cards are essential, and you can use the eBay education specialist on a logo, as a logo on other cards, such as eBay stores or something. But if you're going to market yourself as an eBay education specialist, then I think you really need to have a card that designates either you as an education specialist or your niche or your decision on where your expertise might lie. The one up in the corner that you're looking at is the one that is available from the PowerU site. There again, you would go to resources and materials, the first one there, and scroll down, and it's a PDF download that allows you to edit it, and the rest of the card's already there. So you can do that very easily and inexpensively if you want to print your own cards. You want to make sure that you fill out your profile on the PowerU site, and you want to make sure that when you fill it out, you do it with a certain amount of showing your expertise and showing who you are. I've done a lot of research on that PowerU site in the last few months while I was trying to get ready for this webinar, and I have to tell you, the amount of people, education specialists signed up who have little or no information on their education specialist profile on the PowerU site is amazing. If you don't have a website to sign, well, now we don't need a website to sign up. When you do put a website, you want to make certain that you use the constant contact link on your website that links people back to the PowerU site and your classes. But if you don't have a valid email, and if you don't have a website or a phone number or a way for people to contact you, it makes you look really unprofessional. And if you don't have a photo and some information over there about who you are, saying, I've been an eBay seller since 1902, and I'm really great, that doesn't hack at people as a professional. You need to really look it over. You need to edit it. You may need to make it look really professional, and don't be afraid to make yourself look good as long as you're telling the truth. How about that? And of course, you want to list all your classes. We've talked about that. We've talked about the website. We've talked about the business cards, brochures, handouts, or other relevant materials. If you look in resources On the PowerU site, they have some. They are dated, but they are downloads, and you can make them more modern, or if you're really good, you can take the ideas to your own publisher or something like that and create them. I've never found brochures to be of any value to me. However, I do think that a one-page sheet that tells about an upcoming class or something like that as a handout can be really good, a flyer. When I did my complimentary classes, I always try to make sure that I have a handful of flyers so that I can hand them out if I have a relevant class coming up. I do an awfully lot of 1-hour classes and talks around the area and around the state about eBay. And so I don't always have classes listed that I can send them to immediately. The reason I do that is because it does give you credibility and it does open other doors. Locate venues. This is another one I really find that we will be talking about in the next PowerPoint. I live in a rural area, so locating venues is fairly simple for me. My library allows me to do workshops. The senior center would allow me to do workshops. We have a hotel out here that if we eat a dinner, they will allow me to do workshops. They're all set up for Wi-Fi. So all I need really from them, since I have my own projector, is Wi-Fi. I need an internet connection in order to do mine. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but it's my opinion that you would be better off by locating venues through sponsored venues than you will through paying for your own venues. And I'm going to give you a real quick list of sponsored venues, which we will be going over in the next webinar. Here's some examples of sponsored venues. Small business development centers. If you want to set up workshops through them, they're really easy to work with if you fall within their perimeters. There is one in about every community that has a college because they have their branches out in college towns. Chambers of commerce, community colleges, economic development, military installations. You might not have thought about that, but we have Fort Riley down here in Abilene, and they always have programs for their spouses and for their military personnel. So you might tie into those. It might be a good place for a free 1 hour followed up by a class. University and community college outreach programs. The university probably will not hire you to teach a class because you have to have a master's degree, but their outreach programs certainly would. And one of the best ways to get into a university curriculum and talk to people is to go through the School of Business, because that's what they're interested in, is entrepreneurship, in building businesses and things like that. So don't be shy, but make sure that by the time you go to these venues, you've already set up your website, you've got your business cards, you know what you want, what kind of classes you want to conduct, and so forth. And then when you first go in, ask questions. You know, are you interested? Would you be interested in? And so forth. Technical colleges, there's tremendous interest in technical college. Senior centers is another market. I have found that senior centers don't work very well for me because a lot of people are retired and they like workshops, but they don't necessarily want to put them to work. So you may find this to be different, and they may be very responsive, and they may end up giving you some referrals. Others are SCORE, libraries, entrepreneurial centers, and any place like that where you can find people who are setting up workshops or setting up seminars for people to learn from. So those are a few that you might think about. When you do have one, when you do find a venue, whoops, sorry about that, then you want to use online and offline media sources for press releases. Send out press releases. Lots of times the venue will send out press releases, and if they do, then you want to have one prepared for them, and it needs to be short. So you need to consolidate the information about your workshop or your seminar or your class and make it short, but you want to make it available. You could always have one on your website that you could refer them to, which is another way of letting your website do the work for you. And now we have 8 secrets to success as an eBay professional. I really thought about this a lot before I put these up here, because I felt like there were so many things I wanted to tell you and I wanted to get into that there just wasn't going to be time for. So I thought, well, I'll just put them here and we'll discuss them a little bit. eBay best practices in listings, maximize them for search and mobile buying. So by following the guidelines and rules of the materials in the eBay basics of selling, and by doing it well, in other words, telling people or instructing people and showing them that best practices in photography and best practices in listings and best practices all across the eBay platform is the best way to get them maximized in listings, and that if they do these things, then they will be already in place for mobile buying. This is what we would say, showing, teaching people how to eBay the right way. And this is what the basics of selling does for people, is it teaches them the best way to maximize their success on eBay. And that is why we do the basics and why we're excited to do the basics. Use the PowerPoint as a guide. Supplement it with online instructions, demonstration stories, and ideas your students can relate to. The PowerPoint is a wonderful guide. I go through it, and I go online for a lot of things. I'll go online to make a listing. I will go online to show them how PayPal works. I have a second PayPal account set up that doesn't have anything in it. I will go online to take them to a stores page or something that I want them to see. Or I will go online to show them where to find information as we work along, rather than to try and let the PowerPoint or just my experience work for me. I let the internet work for me, and I let the demonstrations on the internet work for me. When it comes time for photography, I demonstrate it very quickly. I take a picture, I put it up on eBay, I edit it by using OpenView, which in 2004 Riff used in his presentation, so I use it still, and I still like it. It's a simple editor that I can show people. I show them how to file it on their hard drive so that it's easily retrievable. So you want to use the PowerPoint as a guide, but you want to use the other resources that are available to you as an expert and a professional to drive the points home to your students. Stay in control of your class. The second class I ever had for a small business development center, the lady who was the assistant director of the center was also an accountant. Somebody in the class asked me, well, what about your taxes? And I gave them my answer, which was, I don't talk about taxes. I am not a tax expert, and that is not what I'm here for. Go to your small business development center, go to your accountant, or go to your attorney and learn taxes in your state and how to handle them properly. And this lady got up, who was the director and the accountant, and she says, well, everybody should know about taxes, and you should be telling people that they have to. And she took my class away from me. I mean, she literally took it away from me. So I let her ramble on for a couple minutes or so, and finally I said, and that's very nice, and they can come to you and ask you for consultation on how to handle their taxes, and I took it back. You have to stay in control of your classes. You have to make the decision when questions will be answered, and if there's something that will be answered during the presentation, then you can say that. It doesn't hurt people's feeling for you to say, that's a really good question, and we will be covering that in a few minutes. This is another really, really important one. It's your job as an eBay Education Specialist Professional to stay current on the eBay platform. And the reason I tell you that is because you need to be plugged into announcements, and you need to be plugged into everything that's changing on the eBay platform so that you can offer links on your website, or you can set up a newsletter for your students to let them know about changes and things so that they are kept current and they stay out of trouble by knowing what's going on and what's happening. Build a database of students and venues for reference. It's really important that you build a database of your students and have information about them and set them up either as a newsletter or a way that you can keep them current on information that they need to know about. Because these students have asked you to help them to understand how to sell successfully on eBay. You can't make them successful. You can only lead them to the very best information available to them and help them understand where to find it. Your success does not translate to their success. It's much better for you if you don't rely on your own success. Now, that doesn't mean you can't tell your story and that you can't be proud of the fact that you've been successful on eBay as a seller. But what it means is you don't use that success to train your students. But you can learn a lot about other people and their success. I always tell stories about people that I have accumulated their success modules as I go through. The wreath lady, which was recently brought back home to me as a lady who is very successful building wreaths on eBay. Bubble Fast is another one. I use other people's success in my stories to create something that my students can relate to, and not my success, because my success won't translate into their success. They have to make that decision for themselves. And the other thing is, the next thing I want you to understand is you're marketing to adults who want to be successful in business. Enable them to find answers on the eBay side and offer coaching, not babysitting. You are not a babysitter. You are not holding their hand all the way unless you are a coach and you are doing that specifically for them. You are enabling them to become more successful. As a professional, if you've ever gone to college, you know that your teachers, your instructors, and your professors did not go in there and hold your hand and nurse you through every little crisis that you had. They enabled you on how to find the answers, and that's what you want to do with your students. And the last thing, which is probably the one we hear the most about, is change on eBay is constant. It's always evolving. It's always going to evolve. There's going to be times when they're going to hate the evolution, and there's times they're going to love the evolution, but it's going to happen. At the beginning of your class, at some pertinent point, tell your students that. Change is always there, and it's always going to be there. And for the most part, the change is for their good. It's to help them become better and more profitable sellers. And I'm out of breath again, so we will take a few questions, and then I'll wrap it up real quick.
We have some really great questions. I know that there's an echo, and I ask y'all to bear with us. We're just having a little bit of an audio issue, but we'll get through this if you'll bear with us some. Really good questions and really good input from the audience. Joyce, I don't know if you realize how unusual this is in the webinar world, but you have more people still listening than at the beginning of the webinar. And usually at the end of the webinar, they're all hanging up and they're all going on and doing their busy lives, but you've got them spellbound, and there are more people here now than there were at the beginning, and more people are paying attention than there were at the beginning. So very interesting.
Well, bless their heart.
Oh, don't say that in the South. Bless her heart. All right. Here's a suggestion about the emails and the constant comment. It says once you have the person registered for a class, then you have their email address and you can put them in your own newsletter system. So that's a great suggestion from the audience.
I agree. And you should.
Absolutely. You should be building your list. That's for sure. Here's a great question for you, Joyce. Talking dollars and cents, what kind of revenue have you seen many education specialists making per year? Can you really add to your pension plan as an eBay instructor?
Well, that's a very good question. I would say this. I know people, in fact, I know a couple people right now who do this full time and make a very good living at it. Just this and selling on eBay. Your market, your professionalism, your decisions make a difference in what you can do with the Educational Specialist Program. When I started with it in 2004 and set up all those classes, I made $6,000 in 3 months. And that was pretty much just doing basics of selling on eBay, because that's all there was. How much can you charge? It depends on what your market can bear. And if you really want to see what people are charging, then go to the Education Specialist site and look up some of the instructors and look at their classes and see what they're charging. And you will see a range anywhere from $50 to $150. So, you know, there isn't a good definitive answer to it, because it's really up to you, just like selling on eBay.
And one of our audience had a great comment. Well, it kind of depends on where you want to retire. So I like that. If you want to retire in Honolulu, you may need to work a little extra harder. Okay, this person is trying to become a business consultant, and so of course all the evaluations and all from previous classes matter a lot. He said all PowerU website lost all of his evaluations from the year 2012. Do you have any advice for him about trying to get them back?
No, but if you figure it out, let me know, because they lost all of mine from 2011.
Ouch, ouch. Okay, so.
And I've been trying to get them back. And I finally got a definitive answer, which says, our tech team says that they can't find.
Oh no. Okay, so.
I'm sorry. So, I really wish I had a better answer for you, but I had the same.
Well, I'm going to take that forward. So what lesson is this to those of us who are just starting? Should we be saving our evaluations in some form on our own computer?
All right. After yesterday, the evaluations are for your benefit only.
Ah.
All of the data that eBay needs to gather will be done through Constant Contact. So when you put the evaluation when you send the students to the evaluations, that's really for your benefit. Okay. I recommend that you do it, because I think, like anything else, when somebody goes to look your name up and they see that you have created or you have had successful classes and successful students, that it does help them make a decision on who to whose classes to go to. So I suggest that you keep doing the evaluations, but one of the main reasons for the Constant Contact application and system to go into place was so that eBay could collect the data and we would no longer be responsible for it as education specialists.
Okay, great. Anita has a great idea too. Anita Fontana, she's been doing this a while. She said she saves all of her evaluations and uses them on her website. I thought that was really smart to build credibility with your future students by what your other students are doing. John says his problem is that they have to have 50 evaluations to become a business consultant. So do these 50 now have to be on the new Constant Contact, or how are they going to evaluate that? I've got 25 on the old system.
No, the old evaluations will count up to the 21st, through the 21st.
That's why he's looking for those ones from 2012. So sorry about that.
The only thing I might suggest to him is that he email PowerU and say, I want to become a business consultant and I need 50 evaluations, and I had them and you've lost them. Now what can you do to help me become a business consultant?
That's a great idea, John. Put it back in their wheelhouse. Great idea. And I would even involve Griff in that email if it was me, because Griff is excellent at cutting through red tape when he thinks it needs to be.
Only wait till he gets the feeling.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't do it this week, but next week for sure.
Don't send him any emails right now, because he's not answering.
All right, and they loved your slides. They want to know if they can get a copy of the slides in a PDF form, and I told them I thought you would be fine with that. So could we provide a copy of the slides?
Well, I think we're going to put them up anyway.
Yep. Well, as long as you say I can, I certainly am. Okay, question. This is Liz and I have been having fun with this question. You said you need to make sure that people understand you're a professional. And she said, well, do you call yourself a professional? Shouldn't that be evident by the service you provide? So how do you introduce yourself to people and say you're a professional without sounding like you're just, over the top? Do you call yourself a professional? Yeah.
Say, I am an eBay education specialist, and then say professional trainer and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, I like that. That looks good. All right.
I mean, there's always a way to say it without making it look like, but, I really feel like that I agree with her. I think that the professionalism really comes from how you conduct your businesses and how you conduct your classes and things like that. But it's still, it doesn't hurt to use the word, I don't think, as long as you use it carefully.
Sounds good. All right. What about sales tax, Joyce? I know you said you don't mention taxes and accounting, but what about sales?
No taxes. If they need tax information, the program is called The Basics of Selling on eBay. We do not discuss any kind of taxes, but rather we reference them. In other words, if you have an eBay website, then you should have a link in your links area that sends them to whatever state you're in, information on sales taxes, so that they can access the link, and then email or contact or read what the state has to say about it.
Okay, great.
We do not do any kind of, we avoid any kind of tax questions.
Okay, like that.
As Griff said when I first met him, here's what I have to say about taxes, pay them.
That sounds like Griff.
That's it. That's all he had to say about them.
And this is a great suggestion for those of you who are talking about, your customers' email and building a list and following them. This education specialist says, I send all of my previous students info like the link about the photo webinar that Griff gave, and that way I keep up to date with them and I keep in touch with them. So that was a great idea to keep sending them,
Why you would build a list is to say, and I'm not personally a fan of newsletters because I really don't have the time to keep up with one, but certainly if you do or something, or the alternative would be to use your website as a catalyst for bringing people back and showing them what they need to do, as far as links go, and maybe suggestions would be from your website, or maybe even a link to a blog as an education specialist that you could start, and you could always link that to your website.
Okay, great.
I think, a blog might be quite successful, especially if you could profile some of your students,
Okay, fantastic. You say not to let the PowerPoints control it, but how do you skip something in the PowerPoint without the students thinking you're skipping something because you just don't want to bother talking about what you skipped? Good question.
Good question. I really don't have that problem, because when I start out, I tell them that I will be demonstrating some things online, and I will be using the PowerPoint for some things. And honestly, I find that they're far more engaged and interested when I don't just use the PowerPoint. I have, occasionally, depending on what I'm teaching and who, use the PowerPoint straight through, and it's always a yawn at the end. So I prefer to say, okay, well, I'm going to give you some instruction here, and I will be taking you live, or I will be demonstrating some of these things, and thus we will not rehash those as we go through the PowerPoint.
Okay.
And when I get to that point in the PowerPoint, I say, we've already covered this. So.
I like that. Okay, great. Okay, and there's some people in the auditorium. Some of the audience is actually posting some eBay item numbers of things that people are selling, like your decals for your car and things like that, suggesting that for advertising your education specialist business. That's a good idea.
Well, another thing I'd like to encourage them all to do is to go to the Facebook group, eBay Education Hangout group, and post this kind of stuff in there, because we have over 300 people in there, and they're all either education specialists or going to be or want to be, and this would really benefit them if you just go ahead and click through on that link and join it. So I encourage you to go ahead and post that stuff over there where it will get a lot of people looking at it and enjoying it. So share it. That's what we.
Great. And then somebody else mentioned car magnets from Vistaprint. Yes. Oh, and Rich Syok says he's another education specialist. They are actually in the sign business. So give your business to another education specialist. Call him up and he'll make you a deal. And that's at there you go, appealingsigns.com.
You need to go put that over in the Hangout.
And they'll give you a good deal and they do good work. appealingsigns.com.
And one little thing here that I would like to add, which I didn't really have on this presentation because we're going to cover it later, is education specialists are often the catalyst for meetup groups. I know Rich and Nyla are, and Stephanie Inge is, and people are really, and Bobby Miller are, of course, I don't think she's in ES right now, but you can start a meetup group in your area as an education specialist, and you have a lot of resources at your fingertips if you do that. And we will be having a program about that next.
We'll be talking about meetups very, very soon. And Anita says she loves Rich and Nyla. I do too. Okay, good question from Sandy. Wants to know about becoming a certified business thing. If you need 50 evaluations to be certified, but they're not counting evaluations anymore, then how do I get to be a business consultant?
Because they will get them through the constant contact.
Okay.
When you set up your classes, people will, and you will actually have a class through constant contact, there will be a survey or something. I'm not exactly sure. That's a good question. I will find out about that and post it in the ES Hangout group, because I do know that I was told that the evaluations after November 21st would be just for the benefit, and that all the data would be gathered through constant contact.
Okay, that's interesting because, like I said, I think that's going to be an issue for those of us who are in the middle of this transition, but in the future it won't be an issue. It'll just be on the new system. So.
Well, they'll go ahead and count the ones that you've already done.
Just be making sure, taking care of that.
Yeah, we'll check it.
Okay, and Wendy says that she thinks the person that was actually asking about on eBay where there's a place to put in your state to collect sales tax. So you could just give them a link to that if they wanted that.
Right.
Okay,
a lot of these things you can put on an information sheet that goes in your student portfolio too.
Right.
And that way you can tell them, well, I posted, or I gave you a sheet there that have relevant links that you can go to in the state for certain information.
Okay, and it says, this person says, as for venues, I'm working with a local volunteer fire department that has a training center for area firefighters. They already have the whole setup, and all I have to do is show up with my laptop. And that is a perfect lead-in to our next class.
That is a perfect lead-in to our next class. Is that your?
That's the last question. Well, there's a couple more coming in, but we'll get there.
Okay, sponsored venues are coming up Friday, December the 6th at 1 p.m. Central Time USA. The link is here on the slide that you're looking at.
And I've got a message in the chat room that link is not working, and I just set that up today, so I apologize. I will go check out and see what the problem is.
I will change it before it goes live.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Either one. There's one link on. Let me click. It works.
Okay, it should work. Anyway, there's a link that the link will be on YABIE.com, YABIE.com. It'll be on EdSpecs. It'll be on the Facebook Hangout group. It'll be on edspecstraining.com. So we'll get that out all over the place to you. And also, if you're on the Top Rated Seller webinar newsletter list, you'll get that. We also have our own newsletter list. So if you want to sign up that, make sure you stay in touch with Joyce and I about all the education she has planned. You can sign up for that newsletter list at YABIE.com, YABIE.com. And yes, Rich does vinyl slides for Windows. It's appealingsigns.com. He put his phone number in the chat room. The slides will be posted at the Top Rated Seller webinar site, and also on the YABIE.com site. We'll be having the webinars and the slides there also. Liz, I'm glad that you have got an education about education specialists. That's awesome. Good question from Anita. Does that mean that potential students won't see our evaluations on the Power Use site?
No. If you use the evaluation process that's in place now, the one we've always used, they will show up just like they have in the past.
Okay, got right. All right. I'm answering questions. I'm seeing how hard Karen's job was while she was talking and typing at the same time. The slides will be posted all over. You can find all the information about this and future webinars at YABIE.com. And the next webinar, you can also find all that information at Top Rated Seller Webinars on the PageMage.com site. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your astonishing attention to the very end. And please join the Facebook group and stay in touch. Joyce, any last words?
No, I just want you to enjoy being a professional eBay education specialist and look forward to seeing you at the next one, which I think you're really, really going to enjoy.
Amen. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye, Joyce. Thank you.